did I tell you I'm rebooting BioShock? Ken Levine called me and he's like, hey, Alex, I need you to rewrite BioShock for me because BioShock 1's trash, and I need you to
BioShock.
Yeah. He wants me to redo the original. I'm like, Ken, everyone loves the original. I can't touch that. He says, listen, you motherfucker, if you don't do it, I'm going to ruin you. And I said, okay. So for the new BioShock reboot, you're no longer a person named Jack. You are a one-legged dwarf with a machine gun mount where the nub is.
Isn't this Grindhouse?
It may or may not be inspired by Rose McGowan's character, but it's a dwarf.
Doesn't Grindhouse have the machine gun leg lady?
It's a lady. It's not a dwarf. It's different, so you can't compare. Okay. Now, you know what? I don't even want to share my dream with you anymore.
So does that mean that if I put a corgi dog in Shinji's plug suit, I cannot? It's not just Evangelion with a corgi.
No, not at all. It will be entirely different because the whole show will be just full of corgis.
I don't need this kind of creative cap on my life, Alex. I want to be me. And if I can't put a dog in a plug suit and call it Evangelion, then I'm not going to do it.
Like, my name is Shinji I-Corgi.
God damn it.
Burst transmission. Engage.
That was perfect.
What do you know about perfection, Alex?
That was harmonious. I happen to know that I can recognize perfection when I hear it, especially when you're over 180 miles away. So just take my word for it. Okay, Real?
I don't appreciate your tone. You're being very condescending about music right now.
Okay. Well, while we're reminding ourselves that we do have an audience, let's go ahead and say, hey, everyone, welcome to the Burst Transmission Podcast, Episode 1. We like to think of the previous one as Episode 0. You know, all these things always start off rough. So as we continue to progress, you'll notice that there'll be improvements, and we really wanted to make sure that this one feels a lot better with the quality because your homeboy Alex here was stupid and forgot to do an audio test. So I do apologize about that, but we will be posting that episode soon as well.
Hey, man, you don't got to be too hard on yourself.
It had to be good, damn it, and I ruined it. Anyways, Raul, how are you doing, buddy? What have you been up to this week?
Hello, my name is Raul. That's how I've been up to. That's what I've been up to. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I've been good. This week, I was recovering from all the Thanksgiving festivities, so it was nice to kind of stay in and, have normal days again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so most of my week was... The beginning of the week, I watched a little anime called Made in Abyss. And it was... I think I talked about it briefly on the last show.
Yes, you did.
So, I don't know how much you remember of it, but it's basically a 13-episode adventure show about these two characters named Rico and Reg. Rico is a little... They're both little children. Rico's a little girl, and Reg is a little robot boy. And, one day... Or basically they live in a world where there's this big gaping hole in the earth, and it's huge, and the more you go down it, the more people have been realizing that there's actually livable, or they're not livable, but there's different ecosystems and environments contained in each level of the abyss.
Oh, okay.
So the first level might be a rainforest, the second level is a super tropical jungle.
That's a very interesting concept in terms of design because it gives the freedom, obviously, for a lot of variations. That sounds very interesting.
Yeah. And it's really cool so far because every episode and a half or two, they go to a different level. So the first level, like I said, was kind of like a jungle. The second level had a bunch of pointed, jagged peaks and stuff like that, very, very vertical, and they had to scale everything.
Oh wow!
And as you get... It's crazy because as you go deeper within the abyss, things get a little bit more weird and dark. And the inhabitants of the abyss are usually monsters or creatures, and they get way more weird and sadistically dark sometimes. It's kind of wild. I don't really want to say what some of those things are to spoil anything, because when you find out what they do and how they do things, it's pretty crazy.
I was listening to the soundtrack because I remember you had shared a song with me from the soundtrack, and I found it absolutely captivating. One of my favorites. It's insane, and just hearing you speak about the premise makes the music have a little bit more of a visual impact, I suppose, when I think back to it. And it's pretty incredible, the quality of the composition itself. It really adds a lot to that dramatic gravity that you're speaking of, and I think that's what piques my interest. Obviously, you've always been pretty good about suggesting really good anime, but that definitely sounds really cool. What else about it do you find compelling?
So the thing about it is, looking at the show on an outside level, just like based on the art and the source material, like promotional material, the characters are very chibi looking. Like they're not they don't seem like regular anime designs where it's like they have very round faces and like the huge eyes, little nose, huge mouth kind of thing. Mm-hmm. The aesthetic of the show did not really speak to me that much in terms of interesting me, so I was a little remiss about checking it out. But I just kept hearing some really cool stuff about it from last season, and I was like, okay, I think I should probably at least give it a chance. The first episode, it's I think one of the better first episodes of any show I've ever seen. It's just super the world building in that first episode and every consequent episode is really awesome. It reminded me a little bit about old. I don't know if you're familiar with a game called Etrian Odyssey.
I've never played it.
But you're aware of it?
I've heard. The title does sound very familiar.
Yeah, they're DS/3DS games.
Yeah, so I probably wasn't very aware of it then.
Oh, it's okay. What's it called? Those games are about, you and a party of people, kind of like a D&D campaign. You ascend a labyrinth in each floor, and usually the town at the bottom of the labyrinth is full of really sprightly characters that will, they're all happy and stuff like that, and they're usually, it feels very lived in, and the NPC dialogue will often reflect a lot about the lore of the game. And this is basically the same thing as that structure-wise, but instead they're going down a labyrinth, the abyss. Mm-hmm. But that town aspect is what really kind of drew me in, because these characters that you're meeting for the first time, they all live in a very, like, the space they live in feels very lived in, and it just seems like the ecosystem, or the ecosystems, the village like goings on and hierarchies just feel super fleshed out immediately because of how good the exposure is.
Yeah. Is it one of those kind of things where it's telling the story through the visuals, or is it a lot of exposition that's maybe
there's a good amount of expository dialogue where there needs to be, and it's not like a complete subtle subversion of an adventure anime. It's very there is expository dialogue a lot in the first few episodes, and I even some of the rest of the show has a lot of that kind of super expository dialogue, but it's because the author put in so much care into the world building. And like I mentioned, ecosystems, not environments, because these monsters in the abyss are actual just animals in an ecosystem to them. Like, there's one point where you find out about this like toxic mushroom that is parasitic in nature, and it'll attach itself to this certain type of animal because I guess it sustains it better. Mm-hmm. And it fleshes out on the entire symbiotic relationship between the plants and the animal. And that's just for one monster, for not a throwaway plot point, but a plot point nonetheless. Mm-hmm. And it was all for that one plot point. I was like, that's kind of cool that they put that much effort into it. And it's not like it doesn't shirk on the vastness of the world building at all. Like that, almost every stratum or every level of the abyss feels like it has a lot of care and good writing poured into it, which is why I think that those first few episodes do such a good job of conveying the sense of mystery that the abyss kind of has around it.
Would you say that Made in Abyss and Hunter x Hunter are comparable in terms of genre, or no? So that
I'm gonna hit that with a no.
Yeah, no. I was just curious about that.
Yeah, because Hunter x Hunter is still very much a battle shonen. Mm-hmm. Where it's all about the fights. Made in Abyss is a true to form adventure show, mm-hmm. where it's you watching these characters traverse a mystery, of an environment, multiple environments.
Now, as a pure entertainment value, just like in terms of immediate hook, did you find that it was easier to get into Made in Abyss compared to Hunter x Hunter?
It was easier to get into Made in Abyss because of the episode count. There's only 13 episodes that came out last season. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, it's a 13 episode show. I can dig it. Well, Hunter x Hunter, it's a commitment. I went into Hunter x Hunter knowing there were 148 episodes.
Wow, that's like a relationship. Jesus.
Yeah, I know, right? But I can't say enough good stuff about Made in Abyss's world building, music, and voice acting. It has some of the best voice acting I've ever heard in recent years. And I can't really spoil anything, but there's one scene that I absolutely hated watching, but in the best way possible.
It's one of those things, huh?
And I can almost recommend it just for that scene.
Well, I'll have to check it out now because it's piqued my interest. Obviously, when a show has that kind of good music, it was actually. Yeah. I remember when you were telling me about the one with the girls, the magical girls. Madoka, yeah. That turned out to be really dark.
Oh,
in spite of its very Sailor Moody type of design. I don't know what the actual genre name is for that.
Maho Shoujo, Magical Girl.
Okay, that's what it's called.
Like,
okay.
The show's called Maho Shoujo. No, sorry. It's called Puella Magi Madoka Magica. Okay. But it's part of the Maho Shoujo genre, like Sailor Moon or Cardcaptor Sakura.
Yeah, definitely. But
that's a total subversion. I wouldn't call Made in Abyss a total subversion, but it doesn't pull any punches when it needs to get dark.
That's good to hear.
Or rather, I should say realistic. A lot of people are painting this show as grimdark. I do not agree. I think it's just they know when to put the serious switch on.
Actually, now that we talk about it, this sounds good. And when you're talking about the moral ambiguity of this, I remember when I was watching some of the Fate series, and I remember one of the characters that really disturbed me was the serial killer one that was like killing kids.
Oh, Caster's Master?
Yeah, and that just bothered me so much. And the thing that I like is that sometimes you need that kind of uncomfortability, right? We always, not that I'm saying that you should always write stuff where it involves hurting kids, but I think there's a certain harsh reality to that when you bring it to that. So when you talk about these characters and grimdark, I mean, that's what I think of when I think of grimdark. And I don't think this Made in Abyss show, in spite of you talking about, seems more fantasy darkish, I suppose.
Yeah, like it treats the setting with a lot of respect in a sense that if you wandered into the wilderness, you'll get messed up.
Yeah.
Like, think about, like, if you traversed into some jungle without any knowing of what the plants might do, what the animals, how they act, and what kind of environments and ecosystems you're traversing in, you're gonna get messed up.
Yeah.
So it's not like this is some, like, oh, we're gonna pull the sheet over your eyes until a very specific part. No, they treat it with a lot of respect. So in the very first episode, they mentioned that, what's it called? This isn't really a spoiler or anything, but she wants to go down into the abyss because she thinks her mom is down there. Her mom is part of a group of explorers called White Whistles, and the White name. Whistles. Yeah, so every cave raider, as they're called, have a whistle assigned to them by color. Like, I think Rico is a red whistle, if I'm not mistaken, and that means she's kind of like in training to. She's only able to scour the top surface, and she can't go anywhere else. And the highest tier is White Whistles, and her mom's name is like Lysa the Dominator or something like that. Like, she was given that nickname, and she was known to be this super cool White Whistle cave raider that doesn't afraid of anything, that kind of thing. And she just never returned one day, and everyone took her for dead. But from the bottom of the abyss, the White Whistles or the Black Whistles or whoever's down there will often send up balloons with notes on them. And in the first couple episodes, Rico gets a note from her mom and says, "I'm waiting for you down here. Come down here because you're destined to be this cool, awesome cave raider."
Wow.
Yeah, so that's basically the driving force of why they go down there.
Well, I'm gonna have to check that out, and I think that'd be something that we can discuss at length.
Yeah, I think you'd really enjoy it, Alex. It has quite a bit. Like, I know you're a fan of world building, so this is super super good in my opinion for the world building alone.
I'm about to check it out, man.
Yeah.
So, aside from your anime binge, you were also talking about Tekken 7, to my understanding.
Oh, yeah. So I got back into fighting games recently. I wasn't playing fighting games for a while, but I decided to load up Tekken 7 because there was Tekken World Tour maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and that was basically the end-all be-all Tekken 7 tournament for whoever qualified or whatever. And it was probably one of the better tournaments I've seen in quite a bit of time, if not ever. It was just super hype, and all the stories were really cool. And just the level of execution that I saw in any Tekken tournament just made me super, like, I want to do that. I want to, like, move around like them and do these cool combos and have the mental fortitude to withstand all this, like, flurry of movement and mind games and stuff like that. So I loaded up Tekken 7. I've been playing, what's it called? I've been playing my main character, Josie, who's a new character in Tekken 7. She's really cool. She's very fast and has a lot of really cool mix-up potential in her crouch dash and stuff like that. But my hands now hurt this week because I picked up a character named Kazuya, and I don't know if you're familiar with Tekken characters at all, but there's a strain of family members called Mishima. So the main characters are like Kazuya, Heihachi, and Jin, and they're all Mishima characters. And they don't all Mishima characters will have, like, if you say I want to pick up a Mishima when you're first learning Tekken, a lot of people will say I don't think so, or you're gonna have kind of a hard time because they're extremely execution heavy characters. So they have like stuff where you need to input on certain frames, and like my or like a just frame where you can only do it within one frame of each other, or they'll have really complicated movement options just to get around and stuff like that. But I like Kazuya so much that I just tried him out, and I really like it, but my fingers really hurt because I was just grinding out his movement the entire week. Just movement, not even in that was just in practice mode. I haven't even played in matches with him, just all practice mode.
That's pretty crazy, but I admire your commitment.
Yeah, like, I don't think I'm going to be maining Kazuya or another Mishima, but I wanted to check him out because he's one of my absolute favorite Tekken characters. I picked Josie because she's relatively simple to learn and pick up, but eventually my endgame in Tekken will be to learn a Mishima character.
Wow, Josie looks like a cutie on this thing. The ears are a nice touch with the
I like the bow, yeah. She's a cutie, yeah. She's also Filipino, which is one of the reasons why I played her.
There you go. That's boss representing your nation.
I was like, yeah,
that's,
culture.
That's great. Well, you're talking about commitment to fighting games. I want to elaborate because if you remember, we were talking about my recommitment to Metal Gear Solid 5. My favorite Metal Gear and also hated. We've had this discussion, right? That I like the gameplay, but the story's awful, which is normally what you come for. And I understand you did it through the cassette tapes, and you're supposed to listen to them as they're occupying you as you're going through all these things. But I recently have been challenging myself with video games to play at the hardest difficulties. So I was like, hey, I'm going to go back and play Metal Gear Solid 5. I'm going to start from the beginning, and I want to get all S ranks. I want to fulfill all the mission stuff, really just do it try to get a platinum trophy, And a lot of these are so frustratingly bad and so unfair that I want to throw my
Have
control.
you done Metallic Archaea yet?
I am not, and I understand that one's hard too. The one I'm having a hard time with right now is the man on fire that you can't let him shoot when he's on the horse. You can't let him attack even once. And there's this particular band about 3/4 of the way through the level that he always shoots no matter what. And it's very frustrating, and I'm trying. It's like this big blemish right now. And originally when I played Metal Gear 5, I played it on PlayStation 3. So obviously it didn't have the same visual fidelity. And I'm finding, like, now that I'm experiencing the way that it was meant to be experienced, I have a deeper appreciation for it. I still am very disappointed with the story, clearly.
It's such a shame, too, because the gameplay is so 10 out of 10, in my opinion.
It really is. You can think of all these unique scenarios, and the attention to detail is just maddening to me. When, if you do a lot of attacks with snipers rifles, the people equip helmets later on. If you like to make a lot of attacks at night, guess what? They start putting up
that makes Quiet like useless in some instances. Like, you can't even use her sometimes if they have helmets.
But Quiet's like one of the dopest buddies. Like, she's just like, bam, bam.
I was more partial to D-Dog myself.
Well, D-Dog is a hunter, and where I've been hunting objectives, you've been hunting monsters. If I understand correctly, you want to...
Oh, yeah.
talk about your adventures with Monster Hunter.
I've been playing Monster Hunter World Beta, and as a longtime Monster Hunter fan, I can say I'm pretty satisfied with what I've been playing so far. It's great. Are you familiar with the Monster Hunter series at all, Alex?
Aside from title, I cannot unfortunately share in your same enthusiasm because I know nothing about
So
it.
you just you have no prior experience with the series.
No.
So basically, you literally hunt monsters. Like that, there's no real story structure that you need to pay attention to in the game. Like there is an underlying story in most of the games, if not all of them, but I never pay attention to them because I want to get to the nitty gritty and just hunt monsters. And what you do, the reason why you want to hunt monsters is because you want to equip their armor sets or get their weapon. And just every armor and every weapon has different capabilities for it. So let's say that I hunted a certain monster that does a lot of poison damage. That means that their weapon might have a lot of poison damage tacked onto it. And that's maybe my playstyle. Like, oh, I want to play a character that can poison people or poison monsters a lot. So looks like I gotta hunt this monster a bunch of times. So when you hunt a monster and you kill them, you can harvest their parts, which are random drops for the most part. But you harvest their parts and you use those parts to make each part of your armor set or the weapon that you're trying to make, right? So that's just a huge draw to it. It's a lot of people call it, it's just grinding like in an MMO. I'm like, oh no, but there's an actual skill ceiling to that game. Like you can't just kind of walk in guns blazing all the time. You have to learn the monster's attacks. You have to cater your playstyle to hunting down each and every monster. Every monster is made differently, except for like the souped up versions of the same monster that might have an extra attack, but usually the attack patterns are the same. They might just hit a little harder. But I've been playing Monster Hunter for close to 3.5 years now, and
oh wow,
I can't say that I have too many problems with the beta so far. It's honestly really cool because Monster Hunter has only been on handhelds before. And I guess it got Monster Hunter Double X got a port to the Switch, but this is the first like truly new gen Monster Hunter experience I've ever had, and it's really cool. I enjoy it a lot.
So do you feel that based on what you're saying, it seems like the transition is better than maybe you had anticipated?
Definitely. I was really scared about the feel of the game, considering that they sized the maps up and they changed a lot of the AI type. Or they said that they were going to have different UI or AI for the monsters, and I was kind of worried initially, but playing, I was like, no, it feels like I'm playing it on a 3DS, but just in higher resolution and with a controller, like the move weights feel the same, the animations feel the same. There's some really, really cool new additions to the combat that I really like. A lot of flourish and sparkle to some of the animations is great.
Well, when you stumble on the stuff like that turns out better than you had anticipated. I think it's kind of like how I felt when Super Mario was going from its 2D platform to N64. A lot of people were reluctant, myself included, because it was like, man, is this really going to work? And you play the game and you realize it's like the best incarnation of anything. Oh yeah. And then it's pretty nuts when you find stuff like that. So I'm glad to hear that your Monster Hunter beta experience.
Yeah, dude, Monster Hunter beta I've been having so much fun. I'm gonna play later tonight with my friend. There's actual multiplayer on the beta, which is cool too. I thought it would just be single player, just to test your weapons out. And also the cool thing about Monster Hunter is that every weapon feels like a new character. You're playing a different character because every weapon is so different. Like there's some where you can play with a shield. Like the lance has like this power guard capability now, where you charge or you hold your position, and if you time it right, it's like a third strike parry. You'll like parry them with like this flashing shield, and it's like the sickest thing I've ever done. Oh man, it's great.
That sounds awesome.
But I'd recommend checking out some of the footage of the beta. People have been doing some really cool stuff with it, and what's it called? It's up till Tuesday if you have PlayStation Plus. You should try it.
Okay,
it's really cool.
I'll have to go and check that out. Sounds like the game is eliciting a lot of feelings. And
yeah, man.
Now that we're on the subject of feelings, you and I both saw Coco.
I did see Coco,
which, for me, obviously, it being of my culture, it really hit home. and I got very emotional during it a lot of times because they did a really good job with just the authenticity of the traditions and capturing them, I think, in a way that was very honest.
Yeah, man.
And it didn't
when the grandma brandished the chancla, I was like, okay, they know what they're talking about.
Yeah, and just, you know, the part that obviously I wept when he was singing to the grandma, and it brought her back, and I just lost it. Like, I just went, I was just a mess because it was so beautiful, and I saw it.
It was
Spanish,
well done.
so.
Like, the emotional brevity of some of the situations were definitely well deserved. I personally thought I got more of an emotional attachment and reaction to Inside Out, but mostly because I thought really hard about why that character was feeling the way she did, or had lack of feeling for that matter. And I was like, wow, that's like real. Like, I'm not saying Mexicans aren't real. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm Mexican too, so I can't say that. I just implode on myself if I say that. Anyway, but I think that just the realization of Inside Out, that she was devoid of emotion, so she couldn't feel anything. I'm like, wow, that's wild. This one, I think the reason why I didn't feel that invested emotionally, like the culture part and the music part obviously were there for me, but the what's it called? I could see that scene coming from a mile away. The scene where he's singing to the grandma. I could see that scene coming from a mile away as soon as I heard the song was called "Remember Me," because I'm like, oh, it's like in Adventure Time when the song is actually called "Remember Me" in Adventure Time, and it's about something similar.
Yeah.
So I was just like, okay, they're like the lyrics are gonna be something really sad, and they're gonna call back to it. Like, it was just like, oh, I could see it. It was like poetry in motion in my mind. I'm like, oh, they're gonna do that, and then they did it. I was like, oh yeah, they did that.
Yeah. I mean, I think at this point though, you know, it's gonna differ because obviously a lot of people who are of, you know, particularly Mexican descent have had a stronger emotional reaction. So if you're not of that, I think it's easy to look at, you know, the story's not groundbreaking by any means.
No, definitely not. Yeah,
you know, it's literally just a better version of Dia de los Muertos when they made that other movie,
The Book of
Life. They were
Life.
supposed to be the Book of Life.
I actually never saw that movie.
Yeah, it was a similar type of structure in terms of plot.
Oh,
Because it's Pixar. I felt Pixar did a much better job of making it feel like, oh yeah, this is actually appealing to people of that. It wouldn't feel like it was, you know, put through a white telescope, if you will. That, you know, the Book of Life very much felt like that, even though they had people of that particular ethnicity. You know, at least they went out of their way to get the casting as authentic. There's just something weird about the story that didn't feel very rooted in that, and I think that's right for me. And I think it depends on your age and your experience too. You know,
definitely. I think one of the themes that they tackled really well was the unshaking tradition of like a Hispanic family, Mexican family. Like even if it was the negative connotation, like the music part, you know, that's something that could definitely, I can see happening. Like, not to that extreme for something so vague and out, like, or so wide rather, but you know, like, oh, you know, we don't do this thing because of this, and that's like how the family has been, and that's how the family is. And like, I can believe that, you know. Also, wasn't it great when the grandma wouldn't let him not take tamales?
right?
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, that's definitely how my grandma would talk to me, or any of my Mexican family would talk to me, you know.
And I think that's for me. There was those little attention to those kind of details that really made it special. Because then when you see them going through their upheavals, it feels that much more emotionally impacting because you see that they do things similar to what people do in real life. But I could go on wax poetic about that, but it's interesting to get your perspective because you look at it objectively, but you acknowledge where it succeeds emotionally. And obviously for me, I almost feel like there's a slight sense of bias because it's going to be like, yeah, Mexican pride. So obviously I'm going to look over those details and try to rationalize it any way I can. But
you know what?
Bring up some good points.
I saw it yesterday, and that's like 3 weeks into how long it's been out, right? Or something like that. I was like, oh, we're going to find seats. The theater was still like sold out for the most part. We got seats in the very front. And I was like, what? People are still coming out to see this movie? And I was like, yeah, it's because there's a lot of people that might want to see it, you know? We live in Southern California. There's a lot of Mexican people and Hispanic people that might want to see this movie.
Yeah, I think it speaks to the culture, which I think is pretty unique because most Mexican people, if you know them pretty well, they like to go out, you know? So the fact that they're actively making an effort to go out there is pretty cool, I think.
No, definitely. Can we talk about the visuals of this movie? like
amazing.
how wild it
beautiful.
was.
I can't imagine how long it would take to render something like that, just one frame.
Like that first scene on the bridge was ridiculous, and like every character, every incidental character in every single shot was doing something different, and they're having different emotions and faces. And at one point, I think there was like 100 characters on the screen, just all doing something weird while the camera's moving and adding more characters and taking characters away. I was like, how is this possible? This is wild, dude. It's definitely the best looking Pixar movie.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like hands down.
It,
Also, what? Go ahead.
The visual density of it was just so like captivating. You know, it never felt busy. It just felt, even though there's a lot.
What was your favorite song?
Man.
There was the 3 standout songs, which were Un Poco Loco, Remember Me, and La Llorona.
I think for me it's Remember Me, man, just because of what's attached to it, you know, and like showing how powerful music can be. Like in that regard.
It was awesome. Like the musical themes of this movie were great because I went to go see it because of the musical themes. That's all. That's why I went to go see it, not because of Pixar. It was just like, oh, it's about music. I'm gonna go watch it. But my favorite song was La Llorona because it was entirely in Spanish, from what I can remember. I was like, thank you for putting a full Spanish song in this movie. Like, it wasn't that I was mad or anything at the other songs not being in Spanish fully, but it gave a lot more severity, not severity, but just, how do I explain it? I just think it was super cool to hear a full song in Spanish in the movie.
Yeah, you should watch the movie in Spanish.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, I should I should get this when I get it on Blu-ray. I'm gonna watch it in Spanish.
It changes a lot of the meaning of it, and it feels a lot more authentic, even more.
Did you watch it in Spanish?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
Yep. It was really, really moving.
Nice.
So, you know.
Yeah, I really liked it. I don't think it breaches my top 3 favorite Pixar movies or anything, but it was really good. I liked it a lot.
Well, it definitely is a good track record for them. You know, not that that's old news or anything for them. I expected good things.
News segment. Engage.
Now that we're talking on the subject of news, Mega Man 11, dude, that came out of nowhere.
It did come out of nowhere, absolutely.
And I saw the trailer for it, and it looked absolutely astounding. And I just like how it's sticking to that. You know?
Yeah, dude, it looks really cool. Some of the new weapons look really nice. Like, there's that one that puts 3 ice blocks in front of you, a bit above you, so you can place your ice block attack to fall and stuff like that. I'm like, good on them for kind of bouncing back from Mighty Number 9. I don't even think that was Capcom. But still, like, didn't they lose the creator for Mega Man to that game?
Mm-hmm. Well, because they wouldn't fund his other Mega Man games that he wanted.
Yeah.
Mighty Number 9 was just a train wreck. It looked good at first, and then they changed the art style, and it became something awful, and it was just like, what the fuck happened?
One of the worst travesties is looking back at the concept art for Mighty Number 9, how good it looked, and then you look at the final product.
It was fine the way it was.
It wasn't just fine, it was really good. The concept art was like, I am going to love this game when it comes out. And then I see the actual, how it looks, and I was like, this game looks like Garbaggio.
Yeah, it looks like trash. It's like, Jesus.
Yeah.
You're trash. Trash.
Yeah. But yeah, Mega Man 11, I'm looking forward to it. I hope the controls... I actually haven't played Mega Man 10. I wanted to, but I think it was only on like the Wii or something like that, right? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, the Mighty Number 9 concept art just looked super good, and the final product was just so disappointing. That whole game was disappointing, even the voice acting and stuff like that, and just the presentation in general.
It was garbage, man.
Yeah.
But
so there are Final Fantasy 15 updates on the way, apparently.
Oh god.
Now, tell us about your history with Final Fantasy 15, Alex.
It for as long as we had to wait, right, through the various iterations of
what was that? Some odd 10 to 12 years.
Yeah, and you get it. It was just like, oh, okay, like very linear button smasher. Story.
It wasn't even a button smasher. It was button holder.
Yeah, and it was just nothing appeasing to me about it. The story was just like, okay, You're trying to go for this whole friendship thing. You guys like touted it as being a more mature story. It just felt like a really bad boy band.
You don't like boy band? I'm okay. Full disclosure, I am okay with the boy band part. I am fine with it.
I just felt that like, for what they touted it to be, they had so much potential, and I just thought it wasn't written well. I felt like the tone was very confusing at times. You know, a lot of the narrative with like the time jumps and shit like that, and I don't know, it just felt very unbalanced. And for as long as we waited, I think they were just like, well, we got to put it out sometime.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like
did
the
you beat
same
it?
with like Last Guardian. You know, like comes out 10 some odd years later, it doesn't have the same impact. I'm more excited for the remake of Shadow of Colossus than I was The Last Guardian, you know?
Yeah.
So,
but anyway, 15. Did you beat that game?
I did, and I hated it. I hated the ending.
I haven't even touched that game past the 2-hour mark or something like that. So, I do plan on playing it. I was waiting for episode Ignis to drop because I was like, oh, that's the last of the boys. That means that the game is finally going to be complete. And this news came out. Oh, look it! You can play all your boys. Like you can switch your main character from Noctis to Prompto in battle, or to Ignis or to Gladio. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like that should have been in the beginning. That should have been in the base game. That's fine. You know, and I was like, okay, these are all probably just going to be big fixes, big patch. But then they revealed there's going to be 3 extra potential DLC chapters.
It's like Final Fantasy 13 all over again. It's like, wow, look at all these.
But the thing about 13, that base game was finished.
That's true. I don't know.
You could, you know.
Final Fantasy 15 is like one of the most aggravating things in existence. It just makes me
so
angry.
I think they're going to do episode Arden, episode Luna, and some other third thing, but they announced episode Arden.
Arden reminds me of Diet Kefka. Like if he's like just a diet version of Kefka.
See, and I would rather them do a mediocre villain that wasn't reminiscent of Kefka than a mediocre villain that was.
Right.
Because Kefka is such an iconic character. Like, imagine if they gave us just like, I don't know, generic Golbez. I don't know. Like, Golbez is fine. Golbez is totally alright, but like he doesn't hold the brevity that Kefka does, in my opinion.
Dude, Kefka poisoned a river because he was bored.
Yeah, I know. He's like, hey, look at that. Alright, I killed everyone. Hey, look at that. I killed the world.
One of the scariest places I remember is when you had to go into Cyan's dream. And he has to fight Larry, Moe, and Curly. They're supposed to be like his demons. But dude, I felt really bad for him. I was like, man, this guy is... The way they like wrote his story when he like catches his wife and his like child dead, I was like, this is fucked up.
Yeah, that was back when they took huge risks like that in a story and made it work.
Yeah, dude. Like when you look at Final Fantasy VI's story, and then you're like that, it was just so good. You know, that's what I remember. Why I loved the Final Fantasy games, because it was like this adventure, right? And when you got through these plot points, and like when I play these better Final Fantasy games now, which are supposed to have these gorgeous realized worlds, I find them to be very shallow and empty. I don't get that same sense of exploration and awe and wonder that I did on a 60-bit one. You know, I don't know.
I feel you. I think with Final Fantasy 15, I saw a great tweet by Super Butterbuns where she's like, Final Fantasy 15 is going to be a great game in 2019. I'm like, hey, you know what? It might, when everything's all together, it might be, but I can't support just their business practice of let's release a half-finished game, and then subsequently add more so we can complete it. We're not I feel like the episodes are even just going to be prequels or side stories, not even enhancing the main storyline. Maybe you'll enhance the characters' motivations, but I don't know.
I just don't think by that point we should have to spend that money for DLC that's going to be underdeveloped.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm thinking like I'm really sad because I actually did want to play that game to completion when episode Ignis came out, but now I couldn't care less, honestly.
Yeah, it's pretty unfortunate. I mean, all things.
But whatever. Final Fantasy 15 is a dumpster fire at this point, and I will gladly watch it burn from a distance until I can play it when it's complete. Anyway,
there you go. Now I'm looking at the adult Gohan trailer.
Wait, what?
I'm looking at right now at the adult Gohan trailer that you were telling me about earlier.
Oh yeah, the adult Gohan trailer came out for Dragon Ball Fighters.
And
Dragon Ball Fighter Z, I think is the real name. I cannot wait for this game, Alex.
It looks so good, dude. I think this is like the one Dragon Ball Z game that everybody's been waiting for. Like, this looks like the closest thing to the fucking animated series ever, and it's so amazing.
Yeah, every time I see that game, I'm just reminded that those are 3D models, but they look like 2D.
Right.
And thank God the Arc System works for being able to capture something like that.
I'm like looking at it right now with no sound, and I'm in awe. This is ridiculous.
So Gohan's one of my favorite characters. If it's like Vegeta, Gohan are my two favorite characters in DBZ. And what's sad about Gohan is that he's kind of a jobber in after the Cell arc. He was canonically the strongest being in the universe at one point when he became Mystic Gohan, and he fought Majin Buu for a total of about 0.115 seconds, and then he got eaten. And I was like, man. But I was always a fan of Gohan after the Cell arc because his actual character arc is so good. So when DBZ Fighters had young Gohan, I was super excited to try him out, and I got to play him a lot at GameStop Expo about 3 months ago or so. And I was kind of disappointed because not about the character, how he looks and everything, that's fine, but the way he plays, his like normals are really stubby. It seems like he doesn't have like a wake up super or a good super he has a super where it goes up forward, and oftentimes like that's a really specific anti-air type of super, and sometimes it doesn't even combo.
Oh, wow.
So I was just like, man, this character kind of feels gimped in a way. But then they release adult Gohan with his full-size limbs and his really cool attacks. That he has like this really cool elbow cross-up that's from the manga. And even though this trailer was super short, I was still excited that my boy made it in. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be going in on that game when it comes out. It looks awesome. Capcom Cup ended today. Capcom Cup was wild. Mena RD took it from Dominican Republic. That was pretty cool. He brought it back from a 2-0 Tokido. He reset the bracket and then won, I think 3-1 or 3-2 in the reset. It was awesome. Just watching that kid play his heart out and win Capcom Cup as a newcomer to the game. It was great, and he beat the Evo champion.
Oh wow!
It was awesome. But at the end of Capcom Cup, we got Street Fighter V AE trailer, Arcade Edition, where they're adding 6 more characters, rebalancing the game, adding new V-triggers and supers, and doing a rebalance. And that trailer was something else. We saw all 6 of the new characters. I believe they were Sakura, G, Sagat, Falke, two other characters. Oh, Cody was in there, and another 6th person that I can't think about right now. Who was in it? Anyway, it started with a Sakura trailer, and then it went to this gorgeous looking cinematic AE trailer, which was really cool.
Yeah.
I'm super excited just to see these new characters because they look interesting, and the Sakura trailer looked really good to me.
Yeah, from that little bit that I saw, her animations looked very fluid, and I'm not really much of a fighting game person I used to be as a kid, but now I just like to admire the artwork and a lot of the technical prowess that goes into the game and how these people research their moves and stuff. I find that fascinating. It's a strategy onto itself, and
yeah, it's gonna be awesome. Oh, Blanca was the 6th character.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's the one you were talking about. Iconic characters.
Yeah. So as a fighting game fan, this trailer, I don't know if you've been seeing all the stuff about Street Fighter V since its release, Alex.
It's been a lot of vocal opposition, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of negativity towards it, and I think it's well received or well deserved negativity because it was such a shaky launch. No arcade mode in it. What's it called? The servers were super laggy, and as a game, personally, I think the balance was kind of the risk reward balance was really bad. And it wasn't fun to watch after maybe like a year or a year and a half in the oven. It still wasn't fun to watch after a while, except at the very highest levels of play. And it seems like with these new, after all the negativity, they released this Arcade Edition trailer, and it looked gorgeous. It was the best looking thing we've seen for Street Fighter V, absolutely.
Well, it's good to see that Capcom is rectifying their mistakes. Maybe EA can take some notes on that for Battlefront 2. But, that's not worth talking about at this point. But what is worth talking about, we're at the Game Awards. To no one's surprise, of course, Zelda got Game of the Year. And I think I'm not disappointed by that because Breath of the Wild was pretty good. It was for it being a first open world game that Nintendo's ever really done, it was done in a very unexpected way. And I really, really enjoyed it a lot, and I had no grievances with that.
I wanted to play it. It looks killer. I don't have a Switch though. I played it for like an hour with my friend when he brought his Switch over, but I didn't get a chance.
Yeah, it's a really, really good game. My friend Chris over here, he has a Switch, and we played it, and he gave me a few opportunities. It was one of those weeks when I was over at his house for a while, and I just found myself losing hours to it, and it just was always constantly surprising that this was Nintendo's first attempt at this, and it was done in such a great way that was still in the spirit and the essence of things that you associate with the franchise over the years, and still felt like a forward momentum that translated into now Super Mario Odyssey. And I really enjoy the fact that Nintendo's taking more risks in that regard. And it's great stuff.
I agree. Like a lot of my friends were saying, "Oh, Zelda just got it because it's a popularity contest," and honestly, there's nothing really wrong about that statement either. But I think that Zelda Breath of the Wild is nothing to let go of in terms of how cool it is and how much it pushed its own genre. Yeah. Like if you told me that Zelda was going to be open world one day, I would have laughed in your face.
Exactly.
But they did it, and they tried their hardest for a first attempt. It came out really good.
Exactly.
There's still there's some open world stuff in that game that I don't like from looking at it. Like some of the environments seem a little too open worldy. Like there's nothing to do for certain spans.
Yeah.
But there's enough temples in the game. There's enough cool enemy interactions and environment interactions. It looks gorgeous. The music's really cool too. They have those really cool rune system things.
Yeah, it's
like the magnetism and stuff like that. It's just so like, man, they really kind of hit the Switch release title out of the park on this one.
Yeah, which is exactly why I can agree with it being functional in that way, because it did push the conventions of its own structure.
Yeah,
and I think that
I'm not mad that Zelda won. I'm actually kind of happy that it won. I wouldn't have minded. Mario, I thought it was definitely a boxing match between Zelda and Mario at that point.
Definitely.
I'm pretty sad that my heart wanted Persona 5 to win, because out of all those games, I enjoyed Persona 5 the best. But a niche, not necessarily niche anymore because of the wide release, but out of all those games that were considered, it was the most niche JRPG.
Yeah, definitely.
I would have been mad if PUBG won. Player Unknown Battlegrounds, because it's an early access title.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
but
also Nier got snubbed for Game of the Year, but whatever.
It's a whole thing. Aside from Zelda winning, there was a very, very strange Death Stranding trailer, which again featured Norman Fetus, now him and a baby fetus.
Yeah, the great movie One Man and a Baby, and an Eldritchian horror.
Right, it's just more weird stuff, and I was kind of upset because I do want to see gameplay at this point. Like, it felt a little pretentious, if I could have to be honest, just because, it's more.
It's like if David Fincher threw up all over a canvas.
Yeah, it's taking itself almost like, ooh, look, it's like, okay, we get it. You like Norman Reedus? He's in the game. Cool. What the fuck is going on? What do we do in the game? And it just, I want to hype it. I have faith in Kojima. I hope I do.
Even if this game turns out to be critically bad, like, I won't say that Kojima is not ambitious at all.
I can't fault it for that. For sure.
This is looking to be one of the more ambitious titles that's probably ever going to come out on a video game console.
Indeed, and I want him to hit it out of the park. I really, really do, but until I see gameplay, if I see another trailer with some sort of meta reference where it's like, hey guys, look, we got Norman Reedus and Mads Mikkelsen. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
It's like, no, show me.
And Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, just show.
I think some of the articles that have come out recently say that, like, all three of them don't know what the plot of this game is still.
That's not good. You don't admit that.
Yeah.
Like, it's been a year and a half now. What the fuck?
But, you know, that's all speculative at this point because we haven't even seen gameplay. I feel like it's just going to be a big movie at this point.
I swear, I don't know if I can handle that. That would piss me off.
Yeah.
You know, I'm one.
I don't know, man.
But what'd you think of the Bayonetta 3 trailer?
Man, I almost cried. I think I did cry. When I saw that moon, oh man, I lost
the
it.
blood
And frick, dude. Like, okay, so I don't know if you know this about me. I think Bayonetta is definitely one of the best games ever made. Bayonetta 1.
Okay, yeah.
It's almost stupid how good that game is to me, and how well it works on every level that it means to take.
Oh,
it's great.
What is it about this game that appeals to you so much? It's so funny because it's just a shooter, you know. But
wait, what? Shooter?
Well, no, that's the bad word for it.
No, it's a hack and slash. Like it's a stylish
Warriors.
action. No, it's not even like a Muso game really, because Muso games like Dynasty Warriors, they don't focus too much on dodging as much as these games do. Those games are about kind of just like wiping out hordes of enemies in the coolest way possible to me. But this game features just like, I need to do stylish combos, make it look cool for myself, and dodge attacks, and use like all the tools that are readily available to me in any situation. Devil May Cry 3 is one of my favorite action games like that. But when I played Bayonetta 1, I was like, no, this is the real deal. Like, this is that the fun I had in Devil May Cry crystallized into the next gen for me back then. And I was like, man, this game really achieved every level it wanted to. The campiness of the dialogue and the story, the minimal focus on the story, if anything, the Bayonetta voice actress is just hamming it up and having so much fun. It's so over the top because of Hideki Kamiya and his weirdness. I was like, man, this game is something special. And when Bayonetta 2 came out, I was super happy that it got a release on the Wii U. They were, I never owned a Wii U and got to play it, but I was just excited Bayonetta 2 existed. Yeah. And now that Bayonetta 3 is coming out for the Switch, I'm like, man, I guess I gotta get a Switch, but I'm also happy that Bayonetta is coming out again.
Yeah. Well, it's a dope trailer. It's definitely something to get hyped about. And
yeah, I wanna fight more angels to fly me to the moon. Hell yeah. Yeah, that's the main battle theme of Bayonetta 1.
That's dope.
Music segment. Engage.
We both have great music that we've been listening to that we want to talk about for a little bit. Mine is it's a song called Something to Remember Me By. It's by a group called The Horrors. Not the horrors like prostitutes, but the genre horror.
I'm instantly uninterested.
The best thing I could say about it is it has a very cool nostalgic feel. It's very poppy. Feels very much like a song that Cut Copy, if you guys are familiar with that kind of style, that indie rock.
Oh, I know Cut
so it's
Copy.
kind of in that similar vein with that kind of style, but a lot more of that 80s sheen, and I really enjoy the vocalist.
Like electro poppy.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of pleasant sounds that mix together that really get your toe tapping. And it runs about 5.5 minutes, and it's just one of those songs that's really good to drive to. Whether it's
that's pretty long for an electro pop song.
But the thing that's really cool about it, the way that the melody is structured, it's very dancey, like it's meant to be a dancey song, and it still functions as something that if you're feeling in a particular pensive mood where you're thinking a lot about whatever may be going on in your life, it works in that weird way too. It's one of those emotionally chameleon type songs. Emotional, where it works on whatever shade you might be feeling, as I've noticed. So I would say,
and that's why Burst Transmission Podcast says bust a move but be introspective.
Yeah, right. Bust a move but still feel the feels. So that's what I recommend for anybody who might be listening.
Nice, I'll have to check that out.
What about you?
I will recommend Anything by Say Anything, which is a weird sentence because I saw them live this week.
How'd that go?
It was a cool show, man. What's it called? Say Anything. I've seen them. This is my third time seeing them. And I've been a big fan since I was like in high school or middle school or something like that. They're a pop punk / emo band that is fronted by the wonderful Max Bemis, who's definitely one of the more charismatic frontmen I've ever seen. He always kills it at every show he's in. The entire band kills it at every show they're in. And something I can attest to saying anything for why I love them so much is that their choruses are literally not the most inventive I've ever heard, because they're repeating a phrase a lot of the time in a kind of anthemic call to arms for the audience. But for some reason I have fun listening to that. Even if the choruses are repetitive, I have fun because of the subject matter or the way that they deliver it or the harmonies. And seeing them live brings it to a new level. I will say though, the rest of their lyrics are super cool and creative.
Oh, well, I have to check them out. Definitely.
I love Say Anything. They're on the surface they are pretty pedestrian pop punk sometimes, but what really makes it is just if you invest in Max Bemis's life and the band's life in general, you get a lot more out of it for me.
That's good to hear, man.
All right, well, I wanted to introduce a new segment to the Burst Transmission podcast called Out of the Loop, where me and Alex are going to commit to certain things that we have not gotten around to, whether it be movies, music, video games, or whatever, that seemingly everyone else has seen before. And it's us getting back into the loop. If you'll take my simplistic explanation of the segment, we're going to get into it right now.
Out of the loop.
Did you find that watching Wonder Woman was pedestrian like most other DC comic films? Or
so I finally saw the movie Wonder Woman. It was good, but I didn't care for the way it ended.
Was it because of the villain just not looking like a villain?
Yes. It was so shoehorned in, it was almost laughable.
I like how Wonder Woman had her own Kamehameha, pretty much just by putting her gauntlets together and firing her powers. Her Super Saiyan transformation was pretty cool. You know, that's basically what happened in Dragon Ball Z. What happened to Diana Prince. But someone saw Dragon Ball Z.
I don't know.
Yes.
I liked all the cool kind of like, let's infiltrate the Gala and go attack Colonel Volgin and the perfume goddess. It was cool and interesting to me. But then when she kills Colonel Volgin, I'm just like, okay, now what? And then they reveal the old guy is Ares. I'm like, what? It took me out of it almost immediately. And then they went into like
CGI battle
this
mode.
weird superhero battle that I didn't really care for that much, and it felt like tacked on. I would have liked it to be a showdown between all the Wonder Woman and her crew versus the perfume goddess, the poison girl. And she's like going to unleash the poison onto like London, and they could have ended it there and I would have been happy. But no, they had to go big superhero fighting a god route, and I'm like, you lost me, guys. Otherwise the movie was fun and serviceable, and I thought it was, you know what I noticed immediately is that they used a very appropriate color palette throughout the entire movie, and it was very consistent.
Yeah, that's true.
The Paradise Island, as they call it, is super bright and colorful and vibrant. When they go to London, it's very blue and kind of dreary because it's, you know, wartime London. When they go to the trenches, it's very dark and dour and muddy. And I was just like, okay, I'm with you, movie. And then it turned into Virtual Boy Red.
Fucking Virtual Boy Red's gonna ruin everything.
Yeah. Overall, I enjoyed it. Probably like a 7.5 from me.
Well, that's good, man. At
Really
least you
good.
got around to it. I still want to get around to watching an anime you've suggested to me for over years ago.
Yeah.
Baccano.
Yeah.
And you know, I've always just had a hard time getting into it from the beginning, and I don't know what it was.
It's a little bit absurdist at the beginning.
Yeah, it's just like I feel like I'm watching a really like avant-garde film.
It's just very eccentric because you have so many characters and trying to fit them all in. But and I'll agree that takes away from some of the experience. But overall, I think it's a very well done show. Also, if you haven't, if you didn't start it dubbed, watch it dubbed. Don't watch the Japanese version. Not that it's bad, but I got way more enjoyment watching the English dub.
That's good to know. That probably helps
Because it's set in America.
I'll definitely check into it. But that's definitely something I'm going to commit to this week, so I can come back and
Nice.
hopefully
And
sing its praises.
As far as I go, the next thing I want to get around to not be out of the loop anymore, is I want to read the new 52 run of the Court of Owls, the Batman comic. I've had these collections for almost a year now, because my friend recommended them to me because he's like, you know, the new 52 Batman, the Court of Owls, some of my favorite storytelling Batman's ever done, and I want you to read them. So I bought them, but I never got around to it, and I feel terrible. And I was like, I need to have this conversation proper. So that's what I'm going to be doing next week.
Well, I can't wait to hear about it. I'm going to try to get through.
Yeah,
Bakuno.
because I've heard nothing but good things about it.
And I want to get to the end of Bakuno. You know, I want to get through it because I know then I can have a deeper appreciation for what came before it. Because I remember you said it was very non-linear in terms of its chronology, and there was a lot of like pulp. You know,
oh yeah. I think there's even if you don't appreciate like the storytelling time, like, you know, the chronology wise or just structure wise in general, I still think there's a lot of charm to the characters, especially Isaac and Miria. They're super funny and they make every episode shine when they're on screen. And I don't know, there's a charm to almost every character, if not every single character in that show to me. And I think if you watch a little more, you'll grow to like at least some of them a lot.
I'm very much looking forward to it.
I think we can call that a podcast.
Thank you again for listening to all of our engaging rants and raves, mainly by me. Raul just has to put up with me, so I'm sorry. But
it's okay. We're very accepting here at Burst Transmission Podcast, the not so cyberpunk podcast.
Next week you can look forward to us talking about, hopefully, about me talking about Bakuno and Raul talking about Court.
The Last Jedi spoiler.
Oh yeah,
cast.
and then that will be happening as well because that weekend.
Oh yeah,
that's probably pretty much all we're going to talk about. I'm almost positive.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge segment.
Just forget we might talk about Bakuno, we might talk about Court of Owls, but more than likely we're going to be talking.
We'll get around. We'll figure something out. We were able to squeeze that much from a Justice League podcast.
Yeah, but
it's
I
fine.
think Last Jedi is going to have a lot more of a positive reaction.
Yeah.
But
all right.
Thank you guys again.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for listening,
likewise,
guys.
And you guys have a great week. Take care.
Transmission ending.